All right, I saw this one in the brackets, and I had to just eat it up, folks. Welcome back to more of the Winter Series hosted by EGC, but in this case, this game's hosted by me, KP, back on the mic to bring you more action, this time between these two Leviathans, duking it out on our opening map of this best of three, both on Roos. That's right, it's going to be Kelazhur in the blue up against LucifroN in the red. And if you're wondering what the ranks are on these guys right now, LucifroN today reclaimed his top spot, #1 on the leaderboards, surpassing BCQT again, now 1964 elo. But his opponent, Kelazhur, he's been chilling. He's been vibing a little bit. For reference, Kelazhur right now is sitting in 33rd place, 169 games played, and he even made a second account, which has just cracked the top 50 as well. This lad is a force to be reckoned with. Do not underrate him. One of the top earners for the South American region in the RTS scene. You know he means business. Meanwhile, LucifroN, for those that are unfamiliar with him, LucifroN has a very long and kind of prestigious history, I guess you could say, in RTSs. In terms of earning, LucifroN isn't, he's not breaking the bank, right? Compared to Kelazhur, who has something like, I think, 180,000, it might have been, in earnings. If you look across at LucifroN's at 67,000, despite the fact that he's been playing since, 2010-ish. But for reference, this guy has a lot of respect from a lot of players back all the way into the Warcraft 3 days, right? Where him and his brother Vortex were just known as absolute beasts. Vortex, however, by the way, I don't think he went full pro. Vortex is a programmer for reference, right? So I think he'd done a little bit of pro play. Actually, my mistake, $106,000. So earned even more than his bro. But I'm trying to remember when he retired. 2016, yes. I think they basically retired at the same time, right? So kind of a weird but awesome brotherly interaction, right? They both got into pro play together. They both retired at the same time. They did thump their chest and peace out. But now they're back competing. Competing here in the first of 3 Winter Series that lead up into a $20,000 tournament. And for reference on who they've taken down on the way here, LucifroN, well, he had what seems like a bit more of a chill way to open this up. LucifroN had to beat Hacks and also HSTL. That's clearly his name. And those two, as you can probably tell, haven't really clocked in your mind. You probably haven't heard of them before. Kelazhur, meanwhile, you could argue he's had a little bit more of a challenging way through the initial parts of the brackets. Kelazhur had to face off against Don Artie in round 1, where the game went to a 3rd game, with him winning 2-1 overall. That's how BO3s work when you win them. And then, of course, the next one went to 3 games as well, up against Demon Sheep, who is a formidable player from the East. In fact, Demon Sheep, I think he has, how much earnings was it when we last checked? Demon Sheep had gotten barely any earnings, but he had been quite the nuisance on the leaderboards and was an AoE 2 player. But the important detail to keep in mind is while Kelazhur was grinding it and sweating it, LucifroN was kicking back, feet up on the desk, sipping his mocha, enjoying life, being when's my pleb going to be ready for his smacking? Well, let's see if it's going to be a smacking this time for Kelazhur or LucifroN. Because almost half of the game, actually I think half the games we've covered so far in this tournament have been mirror matchups. In fact, outside the Hera series, I think they've all opened up with mirror matchups, right? And this is the hot sieve in a lot of people's eyes right now, right? The power to get quick castle age is going to be an important detail. And neither of these players are foreign to that concept, right? They've done a lot of this themselves on the ladders. They've experienced it. They've grinded against it, they've countered it, and they've also outplayed it. And LucifroN right now outplaying Kelazhur on the bounty front. An important detail to always look at in these Roos on Roosing matchups, right? 235 for Kelazhur. He's been denied his 2nd tier. Meanwhile, LucifroN is up at 320. This can be a big deal. Remember, any small detail in these mirror-on-mirror matchups genuinely can just make or break it, right? Another thing to look at is timings here. And it looks like the edge is at least going to be there for Kelazhur. He's 40 seconds away from Pro Scouts. Meanwhile, LucifroN was delayed in this, so he's still got 45 at this point. It's going to be 5-10 seconds behind his opponent. And LucifroN count is the same right now. So Kelazhur might be able to clinch back a slight edge on the deer carcasses. But at the end of the day, just about cinching that tier 2 is going to be the important detail now. if you can snipe any of these scouts, it is a big booster. But it looks like that's not going to be feasible here. Remember, scouts kill each other very fast, so you do have to be rapid on the engagement. And it is quite a micro-intensive experience, because you have to remember these scouts, they get bonus damage against other scouts. So you can see normally you hit for 4, but when you're hitting scouts, it's an extra 10 damage. I am still convinced, by the way, that this is going to get changed in an upcoming patch. I don't think you should be able to move at full speed with carcasses on your back. I do think that what the campaign has, where you move slower when you carry these carcasses, is probably a good way of balancing pro scouts. Because right now, I think the pro scout meta, in conjunction with the fast castle timing, is a little bit of an oppressive style. It's not to say it's impossible to counter, but the effort required is phenomenal, right? Shutting down pro scouts alone can almost feel impossible, especially against some of these civs, such as the Rus. How are we looking so far? Wooden Fortress already going down. No similar move out of LucifroN here. Definitely a lot of value for him on this tree line, and he knows about it, right? He scouted around it. But not opting to get that extra 20% drop-off, even though he could afford it at this stage. It's a bit of a surprise. Scout count did go up to, wow, 7 on both. They are just doing it piece for piece, right? Neither of them getting left behind at all. Of course, the big difference is I believe there was some yoinking going on from one of these two players, and it was not Kelazhur. In fact, I can't select how many carcasses are here, but I think he is behind, yeah. It looks like he's got, what, 4 there right now? Compared to the, I want to say 5 deer carcasses, maybe. Because remember, they were fighting over the central ones a little bit. It's one of those things where small kind of quality of life changes, folks, I'd love to see. I should be able to double-click these corpses. I want to know. I need to know. Give me the knowledge. And there we go. Abbey Tree now being built. Meanwhile, LucifroN's side already underway as well. And the count is the difference here. Look at it. Kelazhur has 1 extra, so he's got the edge. He's going to construct this slightly quicker. But make no mistake, this is going to be rapido on the timing from both of them. A pre-8-minute castle age into instant horse archer spam. You can put money on that. And I think an important detail to kind of highlight here is the relic placement. LucifroN got scammed on this generation. It's actually hard for him to reach a lot of these relic locations. A lot of them are easily within reach of Kelazhur's base. So I expect him to get the lion's share of the relics here. Probably 3-2. And oh, he missed a carcass. He got yoinked. Is there another one here? The icon is still showing. Sometimes it's delayed on moving away. Must have been hidden. LucifroN not realizing that. So giving a juicy 350 food booster to the economy of his opponent. Definitely something Kelazhur will tip the hat for. So match timings. Archery range now going down. No archery range yet at Kelazhur, so slightly delayed on that front, but had that slight edge, right? So he's going to get his Monk out not quicker. What? Wow. Yeah, you know, Kelazhur was delayed on this. I don't think he had the gold requirement, so he doesn't get his Warrior Monk out before his opponent. Big deal as well. It means first of these relics in the center will be grabbable for LucifroN ahead of Kelazhur. And all of a sudden, what I was saying, it's almost like Caster Curse coming in, right? Yeah, you know, Kelazhur's going to get the majority of these relics. Nope. Nope, he's not. And you can see that he's behind. And this is frustrating as well, because he's still committing to it. He's going to get there, realize it's too late, and then have to fold around for a different relic. That's a frustrating situation, because your opponent is already generating the next Monk. Scout engagement again. Slight advantage for LucifroN, so Kelazhur won't hang around for the moment. But the Horse Archers are coming out, so LucifroN needs to be careful. This is your cannon fodder. You don't want to lose it before the main engagement. And he has got Horse Archers coming out from 2 of these archery ranges now. But it looks like Kelazhur's already going up to the 3rd. Interesting to see who's going to blink first. I don't like the idea of you just racing solely Horse Archer, Horse Archer. We've seen how that can backfire a lot of times. I think the edge in this matchup at this rate is going to be the scout count. Something we've seen some players utilize when they get outnumbered on the Horse Archer count is to actually build additional hunting cabins to spam out units. And it's something that neither of these two players has used yet because they don't feel the pressure to go for early due to the fact that Rus economies do not use gold outside of tech ups right now. Right? Horse Archers only cost food and wood. So you have no reason to get people in the gold veins, and you have no value out of placing hunting cabins to gather passive gold. There we go. Another grabbed. So already up to 3. And that's where he's going to stay as Kelazhur secures 2. That does mean in the natural situation where the stalemate's out, it should be feasible for LucifroN to hit a castle age timing ahead of that of Kelazhur. So we'll see if that comes into play for LucifroN. In the meantime, another important detail. Just trying to get the extra gold and trying to get more bounty, sniping out the boars. Neither of them will be able to reach tier 3, mind you, right? You can see, because they've split the map, on average, I'd say on a 1v1 map, rather, I think there's maybe maximum cap out, you might get 750 max in terms of value across the map. Right, from the guy units, from the deer, from the sheep, from the wolves, and from the boar. So engagement, if it was to occur right now, would slightly favor Kelazhur, and I think he IDs this. He's going to chase him. Moving in. Needs to break away. He realizes he's at a disadvantage here. Especially considering his Saint isn't here to give the Saint's blessing over. But then the teeter, right? The frustration of this matchup. The fact is, when it comes down to a Rus on Rus matchup where you're mirroring every move, the detail that matters is actually the sacred sites. You have to force your opponent to come out onto even ground. Because if you try to push across their base to get the main fight, by the time you arrive, you've lost your number advantage. Although right now, LucifroN making mistakes with his front line. Scouts weren't in position. The Horse Archers try to snipe out at Kelazhur's battalion. And while he's getting through the scouts, there's definitely value out of these monks and how long they've lasted here. But now numbers are going to start to favor LucifroN. Remember, he's on the home field. And you see he's just trying to snipe out what he can and ensure that LucifroN can't not push into his economy after this fight. Gets for him. And now you can just clean up the scouts. So Kelazhur, jumping the gun a bit. Like we said, he shouldn't be pushing into the base. Makes a big error doing so. And as a result, gives the mid-ground over to LucifroN. Now the bounce back. Is it going to be there? 4 archery ranges, soon to be 5 for Kelazhur. Meanwhile, LucifroN already up to the 4 mark himself. Isn't thinking about 5 yet, isn't a greedy boy, but doesn't have a blacksmith. A difference that could come into effect, giving Kelazhur an advantage in the next fight. Scurrying around, eyeballs all over, up to 16, is that now? Yeah, 16th one soon coming in. Hasn't brought the Saints over, so hasn't been healing. He's using the Saints to decap the sacred sites and give himself a gold treacle. You see it right now. And remember, it's important to control these sacred sites, not only to force your opponent out in case it ticks the victory condition, but more importantly, because by controlling these, you're giving yourself 100 gold per minute. And remember, LucifroN already has the edge with 3 relics compared to the 2. If you allow him to have domination over these sacred sites as well, he could naturally flow into an Imperial Age timing you can't achieve. Or more importantly, he can continue to just trade gold for food in the Golden Gate here for 100 to 150 at a time, and then push out more military units than you can actually keep up with. 21-8, 23-7. More warrior monks here, but that's not going to be an edge for Kelazhur in this situation. You can quickly snipe them out before they reach you with the additional horse archers that LucifroN has. Just feeling the remnants of the last fight right now. And income is looking good for Kelazhur. A lot more food coming his way, but LucifroN making up for it with the gold difference we talked about. Here comes the engagement. Scouts engage with the scout lines. Not sniping out the Saints just yet, but now he's going to target them down. Warrior Monks, you want them out of the equation, they're given the buff. The buff that can make the difference. But they're kind of ignoring it on both sides at this stage. Instead, Kelazhur down to 14 Horse Archers, 15 for LucifroN. So LucifroN once again going to come out ahead, and he'll force a retreat out of Kelazhur. Kelazhur making the same mistake as before, pushing into his opponent's side of the field, where he's able to reinforce quicker. But he might have the difference here. He splits into 2 groups. He wraps around the side. He cuts him off. LucifroN, overconfident, playing into the stealth forest, is going to lose the bout. Only 4 Horse Archers remaining. 2 Warrior Monks. Meanwhile, 3 Warrior Monks for Kelazhur, as well as 11 of these Horse Archers can run down the remaining stragglers. And that was the difference, right? The 5 archery ranges. Not even the tech. He never even bothered to get the steeled arrows or the iron undermesh. It's just the fact he's got an additional archery range, giving him the edge to push in. And that is a mistake coming out of LucifroN. Not trying to engage on that, not anticipating it. And even being late on getting the blacksmith down. Oi, oi, oi. And now the decaps can begin. A switch around once more as Kelazhur moves into the center fold. What I really want to see out of one of these players is a move in to put an outpost down the central stealth forest. You've seen how influential it's been in the last 2 bouts. If you have a wooden fortress here, you always have a safe, soft fallback point, right? The Horse Archer army doesn't really want to dive. And instead, this Horse Archer army is going to dive straight into the Berry Bush line. And LucifroN caught snoozing. Loses 2, maybe 3 in the end. Minimize the casualties because his opponent doesn't want to dive deeper here. That could have been much worse, though. LucifroN now at a slight disadvantage. 3 villager difference in favor of Kelazhur. And wrapping around now, just trying to deal with that Sacred Site situation. Trying to dry up all of the gold income that LucifroN currently has. And no switch up on the economy front. I was wondering if one of these players would play into a secondary TC, but they don't want to risk sacrificing their military output at all. But Pigeon, you don't need stone for military output. Yes, but you have to pull villagers away from something else together. Oh no, LucifroN again. His villagers on the front line. Hesitation comes out of Kelazhur though, and there's a charge in. Saint's Blessing on both sides. Number advantage is still there for Kelazhur for the moment, but remember, this is the home field of LucifroN. He can replace these units quicker than you can, but he needs to get through the initial bulk. And even the villagers joining in. LucifroN, desperate, and you can see it. Dragging all these villagers off. It's going to be an equal trade for the most. And he's sniping out so many of the villagers in the meantime. And even if you lose this army, consider this. Not only did you snipe some of the villagers, but all 16 of these villagers are not gathering right now for LucifroN. So he backs away. And now Kelazhur, 56 to the 48. Every one of these skirmishes slightly backfiring for LucifroN. He can't afford to take another one on the home field like that. It's just too much exposed economy at the stage. And it's very hard to defend. And you have to wonder, is this the point where LucifroN contemplates a second TC? Well, no. At least for the next 2 minutes. For now, he needs to get all the farmlands in place. And that's a costly investment, right? While you're trying to sustain the output of archery range units, right? Once he does that, I do want to see a secondary TC, though. A unit transition would also be pretty solid here. Mangonels could do a lot of work in this game for either side. You do have to engage with it, though. And the problem they have is finding that surplus wood count in their economy, right? That extra 300 to get their hands on the initial workshop. And then not to mention the cost of building Mangonels afterwards. Now we're looking on tech upgrades. Boy's Fortitude has been ignored by both of these players. That is very surprising to me. Boy's Fortitude is absolutely amazing. Considering you're both running Horse Archer Scout armies, it basically buffs all of your units by 20 health. Which, for Horse Archers, folks, that's a 25% increase in health. For Scouts, like 20%. And it looks like he's done with Scout production entirely. I think LucifroN needed to keep Scouts coming out, if anything. He needs cannon fodder to engage with. He's outnumbered once again. And he's moving out of position. And look how much exposed economy he's got. The trickling of troops that are going to be lost as well. Kelazhur hesitant, though. He doesn't see the main battalion. He's paranoid that LucifroN is trying to flank him around the back. And thus he backs up. And LucifroN, because of that paranoia setting in from Kelazhur, he buys some much-needed time. Had Kelazhur had the God vision we did, I guarantee he pushes in there. He maybe loses 5 or 6 Horse Archers, but he snipes out 8 to 9 villagers and takes a few Horse Archers with him. LucifroN about to enter a delicate phase of the game for him. The wood line is drying up quickly. He's going to have to shift across to the back, and this will put him out of wood production for probably a minute. It will at least pull him away from the front, because right now, as this wood line finishes, this is the most dangerous point in this, right? Transition slows you down, but milking the edge here can cause you to lose a lot of villagers if your opponent pushes in. So, in that regard, quite a good timing for this to occur, considering Kelazhur has actually hit the brakes on his aggression. Kelazhur, such a dominant lead right now. Look at the count. 53 eco, 30 milli on LucifroN's side. Meanwhile, 64 eco and 52 military units for Kelazhur. An insane lead at this stage of the game. It shows you just how much better he managed those early fights, utilizing the Stealth Forest in a way that LucifroN could only dream of. And it kind of seems fitting that LucifroN sounds like Lucifer, right? Because I feel at this rate, he's going to need to pray to the devil to come back into this. Kelazhur has to severely misstep for this to backfire if you continue on this current path of just horse archers, which is exactly what both of them are doing. And that's the way it usually works, right? Like, if one player takes an advantage, the other one, if they want to win, should be pivoting in some regard. But something we highlight is that transitions are dangerous. They're scary. And it's why neither player is willing to do it right now. And that means Kelazhur has the edge. And look at the push in. LucifroN with the high ground, but the high ground doesn't matter as much in AoE 4. You don't get the bonus damage from it. And your gap closed already. And these horse archers, they might not hit as hard because they're not in range to get the same bless at all times, but there's definitely plenty of them to run you through. And that's it. That's enough. Well played by Kelazhur. Nice plays around the Stealth Forest. Gives him the edge here in the mirror matchup. Corpse difference, not really coming to the equation. Tech timing, not really coming to the equation. The two things that mattered most here was, one, the extra archery range coming out from Kelazhur, and two, the way he played in and out and around the Stealth Forest, buying extra time and baiting his opponents slightly out of position. That gives him the edge, and the fact that LucifroN is then pushing his economy towards the front of his base ensures that he is set to lose this game in a matter of minutes past that point. And although it may have taken a little bit longer for him to tap out, make no mistake, this game was over 5-6 minutes ago. Because of the stubbornness, right? I say stubbornness. That's an unfair statement. You're forced into it, like we say. Transitions are delicate and dangerous points in any player's game. And it is hard to achieve when you're being pressured by horse archers especially. But you have to find a way to do it in this game. Otherwise, you're already an inferior number of troops, and outside of your opponent making a mistake, you cannot win this game. And while I will agree, at the highest level in games, when you're talking about the best players in the world, it actually isn't about who played the best. Or rather, it's not like who is the most amazing in the world. Wow, look at that amazing play. It's more about who makes the least mistakes. That's what makes the truly amazing plays. And here, LucifroN cracks under the pressure, isn't able to make that switch over, falls behind in the horse archer count, and Kelazhur never makes a similar mistake, ensuring he takes game one here of this best of three. Well, this series has taken quite the spin. Welcome back to game number 2 of this best of 3. This time, going to be on French Pass. People seem to love this as their secondary map so far in this tournament. And this time, it's going to be a battle between the new overpowered and the old overpowered. That's right, it's going to be China versus France. Will France have the home field advantage courtesy of the map name? We'll just have to find out. Interesting choice actually coming out from Kelazhur to choose France in his second game. Being one game up, this does feel a little bit more risky than, say, some alternative civs you could go for. But what we did see earlier in a matchup between Hera and Eerie is actually how effectively you can TC boom on this type of map as France. And I think that's the reason that Kelazhur has picked it. I think he intends to try and boom up, but keep in mind that any attempts to do so can be matched by LucifroN. So I think the interesting kind of power spikes between the two civs is that when you arrive in the Castle Age, I do think there's maybe a more immediate aggression opportunity out of Kelazhur, and he's going to have to take advantage of that up against China, right? Because if you do allow a situation to occur where it turns into a TC boom and eco boom race, I do feel like in the ultra late game situation, I do favor China's matchup against France. And it does come down to that movement speed in conjunction with the Fire Lancers that I think are incredibly effective here up against what French troops come out, right? Which is usually a combined arms force of knights and crossbowmen in the late game. And I also think you're at a distinct disadvantage when you're fighting towards the center with that rapid building speed of China. I think that might be another edge that goes the way of China, allowing them to build up keeps quicker than you. We'll have to see how that plays out. We'll have to see if we get to that kind of stage in the game, or if we're going to see something more aggressive to open up from Kelazhur. So already 3 people onto the gold. And in comparison, you can see LucifroN playing on a gold-free economy. You know, people say all these bad things about China. They say, you know, the working conditions are terrible. It's so mean to the people. Well, no. In this China, in LucifroN's Grand China, no person needs to go down a mining shaft. No person needs suffer, okay? Y'all can just live on the land, up above, happy as Larry. And will tax the crap out of you. Okay, maybe that detail is a little bit less desirable, but yes, of course, when it comes to China, China is one of the civs that benefits from early economy boosts in the form, in fact, double form, of increased production rates courtesy of supervision, followed up by taxing, saving you putting people on the gold veins. This is going to be very important in the early game booming, allowing you to actually open the doors towards quick castle age timings, or also consider things like TC boomings more effective than other civs, courtesy of the fact that villages you would have put on a gold line can instead go onto a stone line. It's going to be School of Cavalry as expected. LucifroN, of course, is going to be slightly delayed on getting up in that tech up because he stopped off the Imperial officials. Remember, the kind of balance point Imperial officials, they cost 150 food each. So you can kind of map out how much of his early economy got invested. And the fact that he's still caught up like this already shows you just how powerful China is with the supervision abilities of an Imperial official. And Barbarian going down on the corner here, guarding towards this. And Kelazhur should know this location. Remember that the spawning locations are always very similar. It's basically this much distance, but usually the way it works is the southern player is centrally located with their start, and then the northern player is actually located more to the west side in this corner, as we can see. Don't ask me why. I genuinely couldn't give you a good reason for it. It actually doesn't make that much sense when you think about it for more than 10 seconds. Even on the gold vein front, it doesn't make sense. They're evened up. The only thing I can think maybe is about the wood line. So I think more often than not, you get a kind of generation like this where the wood's in the way and it's only 2 gold veins here. And then the whole logic behind it is that the play on the north side is slightly closer to the center to then even it out with the 3rd gold vein being slightly further away, right? Before you get to the central one. Meanwhile, clustered closer to the sacred site up here with all 3 gold veins. This is the kind of area you expect that the player in the south would play towards. I don't know. I think there's a better way of doing it. Genuinely, I think a cool way to design this map would be wood line on both sides in the center choke point, gold vein immediately in the middle, and then have them both be centralized. I feel like that would be a better balance. I don't know. I'd be interested to see what other people's thoughts are. Would definitely love to see that switch up out of the devs, though. And tech up complete. So, LucifroN only committed 1 worker to that, but it was fairly fast when you consider it. And now he's under the stone, so he's looking TC boom. Is there a similar move out of Kelazhur? No. No, Kelazhur actually going into some horsemen. Wow, this is a very different way to open the game. So he's moving forward, and is he walling in his opponent, or is he going for outpost aggression? This has to be a wall in, right? So he's kind of paranoid that maybe China comes after him instead. And these horsemen early on are a very surprising choice, actually, at this stage in the game. The way he's moving actually looks like he's maybe even considering building a mill out here, but that can't be it. I think it's because he's actually clicked them, and yes, oh my god, no. No, no, no. It can't be, right? It isn't, okay. For a second there, I genuinely thought that due to that one piece not being constructed, he was going to be able to sneak in. Looks like that's not the case, though. And now villagers are being sniped. Kelazhur? It's okay, guys. He's France. He's more efficient. And he's getting the outpost down. So, yeah, he's just trying to guard this area. The horsemen, of course, an effective unit to quickly move out and stick in here, and then they can raid afterwards if need be. But nice moves out of LucifroN to secure himself. He knows he has to be defensive like this, right? Like, he's going multi-TC, and this is something that Kelazhur should suspect. And you can see now he's finally moving onto the stone line. And a lot of people are going onto that stone line by the looks of it. It might just be wood, actually. He needs so much stone right now. I think Kelazhur could be considering stonewalling his opponent in as well, but he genuinely needs to get a lot of stone quickly here. In fact, he's gone archers. Slowly breaching through the palisades. He will force a reaction, but the problem is it takes you so long. You can already see that LucifroN is slowly prepping for this, right? He's researching hardened spearmen, and he's starting to build them out. And remember, with the Chinese Imperial official, you actually increase the production rate of a building to make it 3 times faster, right? With that 200% increase on speed. It means it only takes 5 seconds to push out spearmen. Oh, I like this as well. This spearman might be able to get across. Yeah, he'll definitely be able to get across quick enough. And if you stab out this scout, it's just going to be 4 sheep that you can come collect later. Kind of cool small details like that can help. If you worry that you're going to be stemmed on your food income, if you think about it, right, it actually offsets that uncomfortable point in your economy for LucifroN where you have to transition into farmlands by another half a minute or so. So that could actually end up being a really cool play. Ooh, Village lost there. And now they are once again even. And the Horsemen are in. Let loose the Dogs of War. But you can already see he's walling off, so he's going to force it into a choke point where he's got his double TC. And this is a very hard area for you to breach, especially considering you're a France that did not go for Knights, you went for Horsemen. And still aren't in a position to go for a second TC. The good news for China, or rather for France against China in this situation, even though China has 2 TCs, France still somewhat competes because of the quicker production speed, right, of 17 seconds. So until the Song Dynasty is achieved by the Chinese player here, which remember decreases the village production time by 35%, you actually keep somewhat competitive with the count, at least for a few more minutes. So nice snipe out on the outpost. Kelazhur just kind of trying to cheese his way in here, right? Mobile amount of horsemen trying to quickly move between the different outposts is his goal. And now Spearmen, they enter charging range, so Villager's probably going to die here. And yeah, I don't think you can actually protect him. Oh, it looks like he's going to back off, though. Sees some archers, sees the outpost, doesn't want to fight with it. And meanwhile, Scout's still sneaking around the back, keeping eyeballs on what's happening. So Kelazhur, he's tipped off to the way that LucifroN's playing, but LucifroN is keeping eyeballs on as well. He's paranoid that France might be going for a second TC. And he has to be breathing a sigh of relief when he sees that that's not the case, right? We're almost 10 minutes into the game, and Kelazhur is still not positioned to go for a second TC. And this early investment in Horsemen, really not finding its value either. It's just so hard to dive in now. We do see an archer coming out, so archery range drop. Ah, there it is, snuck behind the TC. This could prep you for Jugnu with Song Dynasty. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it against Horsemen being shown already. I think Spearman's good enough to hold your opponent off, and then you target Castle Age. But it depends how aggressive LucifroN feels he needs to be. I just think he's going to chill, though. With the info he's getting in the base, and I think this is another mistake by Kelazhur. Kelazhur hasn't actually sniped out this scout. Very important detail. And he's seen it multiple times, I think. Like, it's lingered in once or twice already. But LucifroN's fixed it now, and you can see he's just on the edge, so he's never scouted out. Important detail means he keeps gathering info while his opponent is playing mostly blind, right? You see him sneaking in the back, but occasionally he's being chased down and away by these spears. Meanwhile, France doing what they always do, pocket expansions. These pocket economies can become risky if you ever get forced across to your side of the map again. The good news is because LucifroN's only building static units in the Spearmen and the Archers, although he's pushing Kelazhur off, he's never going to be likely to push into Kelazhur's side of the map anytime soon. And so Kelazhur in this situation, income, how good is it right now? He's able to somewhat scale his economy while supporting the current output. He's got a decent amount of stone now, but still hasn't really done anything grand with it. And look, LucifroN, this is the thing. He's paranoid. He moves through and discovers that genuinely there is nothing here. There's no secondary TC. I like the way he's using the scout. It's so effective, and the fact that Kelazhur still hasn't denied him of it is a big error, in my opinion. And now he definitely knows it's there. If he didn't notice before, he definitely did that time. And yet he continues to allow it to exist. Despite the fact that, you know, a one horseman could basically chase that scout down and eventually kill him. So Kelazhur in with the outpost crawl. It's going to take quite a long time, though. You probably don't get more than one for free. LucifroN doesn't know about this one, and that's why it's going down. Otherwise, he would have moved out already because he has enough spearmen to hold you back and then snipe you out. It is going to be the Imperial Academy. So there we go. Song Dynasty going to make these TCs 35% more efficient. Archer line. LucifroN backing it up. Going to take a few casualties here. Let's get out just in time, though. And now the spears could die if they're not careful. But the archers are paranoid, which means they're now exposed as well as the Chinese player just plows them down, right? Chases them down. Still trying to break out. He's been here so long. We set fire to the palisade walls, so you'd think he's going to escape, right? No. There is no way out for you, Le Frenchman. There is only death. Eat spear, fool. And This has to be so frustrating. Right now, Kel's like, please, I just want my sheep, man. Never happen. And outpost scroll continues. This time, however, you might get sniped if you're not careful. Song Dynasty has been reached. LucifroN, 58 to 47 already. That's about to scale further. Kelazhur needs to make a better move. He needs to make it soon. Either scale your own economy or find a definitive push in. Because right now, you're not achieving it at all. This outpost crawl is cute. I think the best way to describe it right now is it's cute. Not effective, though. And yeah, Baron Ram's now coming out from LucifroN. He's had enough of this scrap. He has to realize he's scaling better right now, right? Courtesy of the scout. I think the knock-on effect, if you would ever remove that scout from the back, is that you actually see LucifroN play a lot more aggressive and Shelafay, right? Like, he's not going to be able to just confidently sit back the way he is. But the fact that he knows still, 13 minutes in, you haven't built a TC, right? Well, that basically gives him this confirmation that he can chill as long as need be. As long as he doesn't let too many of these outposts go down. These outposts that feel uncomfortable the way they've been expanding. And also the amount that you've lost already is not good. Like, it's, you know, 3 of them have been wrecked, right? So 300 wood just wasted. Baron Ram. Can't get on top of it. Archers engage on archers here. Slight advantage for Kelazhur right now. Will force LucifroN to back away. He has set fire to this. But the villagers won't get a chance to repair it. And now they're baited in to try and deal with the ram. And that gives the archer edge now over to LucifroN here. And yeah, you can see the count now in his favor. And he's still scaling, right? Yeah, so he's still building up. That's why it's not showing right now. But 64 to 53. You have to be a bit paranoid about your opponent's ability to scale past you if you don't actually keep pushing in here. Spearman forcing Horseman back again. Giving him the edge. And now he has the number advantage. And while there was a tech advantage originally for Kelazhur, it's been evened up. LucifroN did use the blacksmith to great effect here. And value found. Pushes him out once more. And these villagers are done. There's no way out for them. And this is costly, remember. Yes, you're playing France, but you're in a situation where you still only have 1 TC. And I really don't like the situation that Kelazhur's put himself in now. This all-in kind of move, because, you know, he had that game of 1 advantage because he was ahead, that confidence feel, that he was trying to close this out quicker, has backfired now. And that means that you're going to have to just kind of hunker down and play for a later timing. Because if you keep pushing in like this, yes, you're forcing LucifroN to engage you at the moment, but you have to realize you will be outscaled. The only upside I've seen for Kelazhur so far is his unit choice has meant that he's got surplus gold. And there's the second TC. Finally, there we go. It took a long time, but it happens. And LucifroN now has that info. But he understands that he does have a superior villager count at this stage. He has to, right? The golden 69 number, and that's what confirms it. Charge in. Spears block it, though. Decent snipe outs there. Most of the horsemen down now. Barely any spearmen left, though. Needs to be careful of the knights. And the archers trying to focus down those knights right now, but needs to back out of range to the archers of the French. Spearmen will give their lives. Needs to replace them quicker than this. Problem is LucifroN's running out of food, right? Because he's got that Song Dynasty, yes, it's efficient for getting more villagers out. But that means you're expending more food per minute. Courtesy of 13 seconds production time as opposed to normal 20, right? So 2 TCs, to maintain that, it's more like 3 TCs. And he's in the middle of a transition, so he's weak right now. And this is a moment where Kelazhur could strike if he identifies that. But he doesn't have the info. Look where his scout has been. These patrol guards, these occasional spearmen about, have kept him at bay, which means he doesn't realize that LucifroN was in the middle of a switch over to farms where you could have easily exploited that weakness. Kelazhur, looking golden now. After the criticism we gave him early, I still feel like this TC should have happened sooner, but look at his food and gold situation. He's not replacing his troops as often as LucifroN is. LucifroN is now in a kind of make-or-break situation where he's going to start to fall behind. Because Kelazhur's getting ready to break him. Guildhall being built. And you're going to see more disruptions soon to LucifroN's lines, right? Luckily, he got the farming economy switch over in time, but a lot of these villagers are going to be AFK for a few moments as they switch across to a new wood line. Kelazhur backs off for the moment. Guildhall is half complete. LucifroN, still no scalability. everything is just going into his current infrastructure and economy. LucifroN. Has he gone for the tech ups? He has. Yeah, so he's now getting his hands on double broad axe. He already got the fertilization. Meanwhile, Kelazhur, I don't think he prioritized this, right? Yeah, he neglected to go for horticulture. He didn't get the picks, and he definitely did not get the broad axes. Interesting difference here. And the reason is because Kelazhur was investing everything early on, right? And he wanted to give himself that gap to scale. Now, arguably, LucifroN could scale a little bit better if he's given enough time. I think, like, on average, I'd say it feels like with most of these techs, you need between 5 and 8 minutes at least to, like, recoup the costs of the first two. I don't even want to start contemplating how much time you need to recoup the costs of your Imperial Age gathering speed, right? Like, that one has to be painful. Also, other important details, wheelbarrows on both sides. I think, like, that is the one research, regardless of the way you open, you should always be taking. And he's now getting it. It's delayed, but he's now going for wheelbarrows. I remember asking DeMuslim on this, and DeMuslim, he said, like, he genuinely gets this literally every game. And I understand why, right? It's incredibly cost-effective normally, even more so for France to get that 30% cheaper, right? When you consider what your villagers are doing, if you ever bother to watch them and how slow they move, if you consider that extra booster in capacity as well as movement speed, and you then kind of quickly add up the amount of time you're wasting going back and forth between tree lines, berry bushes, whatever, or farms, it makes sense that within a few minutes, wheelbarrows has easily paid for itself. Marketplace going down. No tent to trade, though. Looks like Clock Tower is almost done for LucifroN. I don't think he's going to be ready to go, though. It could be that he just tries to aggress off the back of Nest of Bees. The problem is he's now playing blind, right? He hasn't had vision for a while in his opponent's base, so he doesn't know what the transitions have been, if it's even been one, right, for Kelazhur. And that's got to make you a little bit scared. You need to get eyeballs on this again. The reason it's important is that Nest of Bees could be great or it could be absolutely abysmal. If your opponent is into a hard cavalry force, the Nest of Bees is not going to feel good. Nice attempt to raid by Kelazhur, but LucifroN already wise to it. Look at that, folks. We are 20 minutes into a game, and Chivalry is only now being researched. What a rare sight. Could be an intent to go back for more Knights. And with the extra stables, that would be the clear intent, right? So it looks like it is going to be the Knight spam out from Kelazhur. This is bad news for LucifroN. Nest of Bees aren't that great against these Knights. They're too mobile. You'll get some damage, but you can get flanked quickly. And the weird part is, look at the spear count, actually. He split up his spears to guard different ways. He's barely got any spears on the front, so he could get overwhelmed very easily here. And yeah, that's the worrying part about this matchup, right? Spears plus archers is not going to be out against Knights plus archers. Even with the buffs they got, it's just the fact, unless you've got enough spears, the archers are going to snipe them out very quickly. And that's why he resumes production on the spear lines. No switch over to Palace Guard, despite how amazing these units are. Folks, I've got to say, I still think, after seeing multiple games on the new patch, after seeing, even before the spring patch, Palace Guard are still heavily underutilized for what is one of the best units in the game, in my opinion. At least definitely in the melee category. But I think, for the moment, it's acceptable. If LucifroN does go up to the Yuan Dynasty, where you get that extra 15% movement speed, I want to see either Fire Lancers or Palace Guard. Because even against Knights, the gap close is the factor, right? Remember the infantry units, when they get in range, they actually move faster when they go into a charge. Well, here's the interesting part for you. Knights move at 1.62 tiles. When they're running away, and they're being chased by Palace Guards in charge range, Palace Guards with the Yuan Dynasty movement speed actually outpace Knights. They can catch up to them. Should this drag out extremely late, by the way, it has to be highlighted the powers of China in the late game. We saw it early today when we were casting some games on our stream. It's to do around the bombards and the Nest of Bees, right? You see there, the reload drills are amazing for the reduced reload time, but then also this reusable barrels, right? The, wait, not that one. What am I on about? Not this one. Basically, they have the gunpowder tech, right? That increases the damage of units by 20%, which I seem to have clicked on the wrong build for. But what that does is that increases the damage Nest of Bees, bombards, and also your hand cannoneers in the late game. So if you get into a late game composition, you actually are just doing outright more damage with a 20% additional range on those units. And keep in mind that range booster affects Bombards and Nesta Bees as well. So Nesta Bees at that stage become a 9.6 tower range unit, and then Bombards end up with the same range as a Springald, only being much more tanky and doing easily as much damage as Springalds do. Right out, reveals the army, sees how many archers are coming out from his opponent now, and this is where you actually feel really good as LucifroN. I think Kelazhur kind of doubled down on this too hardcore. He needed more knights, I think, to make this feel good. If he gets caught in an engagement initially without vision, he's going to lose most of these archers, right? Like, it's quite a pitiful health pool. 80 health against 5 Nesta Bees. Blink and you might miss it, because the whole army will be flopped on the floor playing dead. Spirit Way down. Something to highlight, LucifroN did pace past into the Imperial Age now. I don't think, yeah, he's still in the Song Dynasty, interestingly enough. Despite being up at 125 villages, hasn't chosen to go up yet into Yuan, which is a very big surprise here. But now Spirit Way, that could enable him to go into Yuan with a stable drop and then rush out Fire Lancers. We'll see if that's the move. For the moment, focusing on the Sacred Sites. He did start collecting these relics. I think he's got some running back now. Oh, he should do soon. Yeah, I think there's an old man on the way some way here. There he is. Good lad. But I don't think similar was done by Kelazhur, so he hasn't engaged with religion. Oh, wait, no, my mistake, he has. He was in there really early. I saw the monastery, I just never saw them banking. So 3 relics already. Really good opening for Kelazhur. Meanwhile, Chinese spears find themselves in foreign land dealing with pesky religious folks trying to convert them. Should easily be able to snipe him before he gets his hands on the relic. Really important he does so as well. Because, of course, by the looks of it, I think LucifroN was racing for similar relics before, which is why he hadn't picked up others. He's got a Shaman out here, or Monk rather, and he needs to get one for the center one. You can't let Kelazhur get all the relics here. The gold treacle is going to be immense. Oh, now push in. Nesta Bees focusing on the melee line right now, and they're going to get Raptorn. They're going to get a volley out first, though. Split comes out. Kelazhur draws back just in time. Line formation, so he quickly shifts out of location. What a play. Such a big deal. Buys time that the Knights are now on top of them. I'm running them through, and he returns to the main engagement. The splintered groups, it's almost like he's trying to spell FU out with his formations right now. There's definitely a number 1 there, and that's what it feels like right now, as it seems he's wiped LucifroN's army. 1 Nesta Bees left. Not for long, though, and so many archers still up. The count is good. He can easily just run through these Palace Guard one by one. And he needs to, right? He's out-teched at this stage. He doesn't have the quality units anymore. He backs away. Did that give enough space? Kelazhur still not ready for a tech up. Look how many people he's got in the gold line. There's not enough room for all of them at all. But that's the thing. That's not his problem. Food is his issue right now. He has huge surpluses of gold, but he's missing the food. And this is a problem right now. LucifroN is bouncing back hard here. And straight onto the central gold veins. More Nesta Bees coming up, which means he'll easily have the gold income to support replacing these time and time again. And Kelazhur getting caught with his trousers around his ankles on this one. Doing his best to sneak out. This keep will not be successful, though. And he will move away before he starts constructing it, so should be able to refund the stone at least. But problem town central for Kelazhur now. No protection for a tech up. No surplus to get that tech up. And still, forced to field pitiful archers. No switch over into the Arbalatriers at all, which is a big surprise. Arbalatriers very unutilized, even against normie archers. Remember, Arbalatriers, with their Palavades, they get the additional 5 ranged armor, and at the same time, you're going to be countering out these Palace Guard. These Palace Guard that right now actually don't feel countered at all. Why would they? They're up against Royal Knights and Spearmen. And because you can't kill them so quickly, look what else they can do. Raiden time, baby. Initial charging is good. Doesn't care about that, though. LucifroN goes even deeper. Looks like he just had them clicked for scouting. He could have sniped out several villages there, though. Doesn't care. They're both basically eco-capped. He's just getting info right now. And he'll realize that now Kelazhur's trying to switch over to trade. He doesn't have a choice. He can't access the central gold veins. And that is why he moves across a 2nd division of Palace Guard right next to the trade post. And remember, you can chase down these caravans. These traders, they move at 1 tile per second compared to the 1.38 movement speed of the Palace Guard. That will get juiced up further if LucifroN chooses to go back for the Yuan Dynasty. And breathing room much needed here for Kelazhur. Kelazhur getting that extra room is allowing him to slowly but surely get the food required for a tech up. The problem is that he doesn't have a say in this kind of stalemate moment, right? He's being walled in by LucifroN because China builds walls so fast. And these walls are of his own choice. LucifroN, maybe a small mistake, letting off the brake, letting off the gas here, right? Hitting the brakes. But right now, he has to feel confident. He has 2/3 of the map, and the map is French Pass, which means he basically has more than 2/3 of the map. He has the most critical area. With both sacred sites and all these gold veins, he realizes that Kelazhur is going to have to make a move soon. The question is what that move's going to be. So battering rams to get through the walls. Breaching with just archers is finally switching to arbaletriers. I'm such a big fan of this. Like we said, they're an amazing unit, right? With the Pavis, you deploy it, and then you get that extra 5 ranged armor. Of course, if you move away, it works out against you a bit. But the whole idea is you're trying to gap close and then stay in range and win the initial trade with the archers as well as the palace guard hitting into you. And that's the thing. The Chinese player is going to commit. So if you stand your ground and use the Pavis, you'll be able to actually run through a lot of his palace guard. I think it's one of those situations where with those compositions, it actually might be worthwhile standing still with your arbaletriers as long as there are not Nesta Bs in the fight. But that's not going to be the initial fight. As we can see, 7 Nesta Bs moving up. The battering rams reveal the intent of Kelazhur, and there's already a keep being constructed, and it will be there in time. Here we go. Enough battering rams here to get through a keep, but what will they do about the main battalion? I say main battalion. It's looking quite pitiful in comparison to the sizing Kelazhur has here. Definitely numbers on his side, and he has Springles as well to snipe out these Nesta Bs, these pesky Nesta Bs that will die quickly. Battering rams baiting out the forces, line formation, trying to move in range. Spots the second keep going down. He's going to move the battering rams across to that and force his opponent into an uncomfortable situation if he wants to engage. Nesta Bs, splash is good. Not deep enough though, although the follow-up is looking decent here. And he gets on top of the Springles, starts to snipe them out before he loses the Nesta Bs, and that's going to force a retreat at Kelazhur. He revealed the Springles too soon. And there's enough Palace Guard here to chase them down, and then they'll turn around, and look at the splash damage, the anarchy. LucifroN, in the blink of an eye, obliterating the French lines, is going to force him to retreat. And then he'll turn around for the battering rams. And he won't get through one keep here, and this is heading fast towards a sacred victory condition for China. Still no signs of a tech up. Kelazhur almost there with it. The college artillery almost complete. And replacing these units, this time he's bringing out the knights. But the knights, you have to remember, there are small groups of spears amongst this line of LucifroNs. And you're going to need a hell of a lot of knights to breach this. There should be just enough time for upgrades, but then he has to push in. It's been several minutes already on the sacred victory. In fact, we must be closing in on it at this stage. And now the raiding force. He engages on the north. That's a distraction ping. So now he sneaks in on the south and looks to attack straight into the economy lines. And he's going to find a bunch of them. Kelazhur. Oh, no. Oh, they're just standing here. Kelazhur. There is nothing else happening on the map aggressively right now. You should be getting alerted about this. Down to 107 now, 136 in comparison for LucifroN. You can see the surplus, you can see the difference, and you can't afford to be sniping and losing villages like that, right? Because in this situation, you're the one replacing your army each time. So you're running out of resources quick. But Kelazhur, focused on the front, he realizes if he doesn't breach this now, he's never getting in, and the game is basically done. And now the bombards. Bombards he has no solution to, remember. He's only got 2 Springles, that's not going to do it. In fact, the Springles die quicker than the bombards will in that situation. And remember, he did get the gun back. He got the attack speed. So these units are attacking quicker. The bombards down to 3.68 attack speed. And they have the additional range. Same with the Nesta Bs. 9.6 range is good enough. And here comes the splash. Wiping him out so quickly. And Kelazhur, what a pitiful showing in his final engagement. He just can't breach it. And I think that's all but done. The Baron Rams, it's a desperation play. He moves the Archer line in too close, and now the Nesta Beast can reign supreme as the splash damage will wipe out the French army, and it looks like we're going to be going to a game number 3. Okay, folks, welcome back to the series between LucifroN and Kelazhur. We couldn't follow straight through when this was live, courtesy of someone forgetting to make the match observable publicly, but we grabbed it afterwards. No spoilers here. You guys are just going to get a fun game here on Black Forest, and it's not going to be a mirror matchup this time. No, this series, remember, game 1 was on Lipany. That was the Rus on Rus, which Kelazhur took the lead with, but then evened up by LucifroN on French Pass, where he managed to beat the French as the Chinese. And now, back with game number 3 here on Black Forest, China no longer available to LucifroN. He's going to go for HRE, but he's going to be up against the Chinese, being manned by Kelazhur. Let's see how this one's going to play out. Opening-wise, should be interesting to see how these two deviate slightly. Timing on this looks like Kelazhur is delayed on his wood intake compared to his opponent, so a little bit slower to get this out. An interesting pivot some players have been engaging with, by the way, in the opening phase here, is the straggler trees. And I'm kind of surprised Kelazhur didn't do it here. Kelazhur could have given himself an edge on this opening, because look at the generation on his trees. Like, look at it. There's literally a tree in one of... Like, there's actually a tree in his TC. It kind of looks like it belongs there. It's kind of feng shui, actually. I'm digging it. Meanwhile, when you look at his opponent, LucifroN got scammed a little, right, in comparison. So if they'd been going for straggler trees, either one of these players would have had a slight edge to get the dock down quicker, and then they would have been one fishing vessel up. Because, especially for Kelazhur, with this many straggler trees, there's basically immediately, without any drop-off distance required, 450 wood available to you, which is enough for a dock, and enough can be given surplus to get 2 fishing boats and a lumber camp prepped, right? But missed opportunity there, pushes across to the lumber camp instead. I do think straggler trees are going to be utilized more frequently on openers in Black Forest. I know there's a different mindset about it in Age of Empires 2, where you really rarely should be doing it outside of like being forced back to it. But I think in AoE 4, the value on straggler trees is immediately at the beginning of the game. And I think no map gives more value for that than this map here, Black Forest. In fact, I don't think most maps allow trees to spawn this close in this quantity. You can tell the devs done this on purpose, right? It's very obvious. Now, let's just check on the generation, because some of these generations are a wee bit cursed, I believe is the term we're looking for. And I'll say that this one is somewhat balanced. There's a lot of gold over to the side for both of them. This slightly, very slightly favors LucifroN, but the important detail is that the secondary gold veins are are kind of, you know, closely matched, right, in terms of towards the center. There is a slight edge up here for Kelazhur, but like we said, LucifroN balances it out by having the back deposits behind him. The important detail in this match, of course, is going to be the location of the relics. And as you can see, LucifroN gets a juicy close by relic. Another one safe off to the side. He will be contested on the center one, though. We'll have to see how quickly you can get up, because, of course, the goal here, when you're playing HRE especially, is to boom to castle as quickly as possible. Intriguing to see whether Kelazhur is going to lag behind him and look to get his hands on Song Dynasty and go for TC booming. I don't like the idea of that without any military presence, mainly because it means that you're allowing an HRE player to reach their strongest point in the game without any sort of pressure, which is a quick way to ensure a loss, right? You're putting yourself at a distinct disadvantage doing so. We'll just run down for those that didn't catch it, by the way. In the run-up to this, LucifroN managed to 2-0 both of his opponents, Hat and Hodolf. That guy needs to work on his name. Not a very good name. Meanwhile, Kelazhur, he was feeling a bit burnt out on this one. He's had a long day on that first day, right? Because he had to face off against Don Ai. That series went 2-1. And then Demon Sheep, also a 2-1 series. So he hasn't had it easy. This one also now going to the third game. What is the split right now? Looks like LucifroN up to 8 on the gold vein. Where is the Prelate at? I think, yeah, he's only over on the wood line here. I think if you're LucifroN here, considering how split your gold and wood line is, you could technically choose to build into a second Prelate. And I wouldn't be against it, actually. It would slightly rather delay your tech up, but it would give you additional value right now, because this Archon Chapel, as you can see, he's placing it so far away, because he wants to shift across to the wood line. And that's one thing that the HRE player would look back at this. LucifroN would probably prefer the opening for Kelazhur. If you look at the layout of his base, this gold vein that you're moving onto, immediately next to a wood line. This one less obvious, a further away wood line in comparison. You can see how easy it is to reach this one on red side. But he will not be denied. And more importantly, he's doing this next to the huntable deer. So if he chooses to gather extra food on land, which actually some HRE players do to get an even faster Reignitz Cathedral drop, then he'll be boosted up as best he can get, really, outside of putting an Archon Chapel next to a ball, which no one's ever going to do because, well, balls are never close to your base. How's the vision game looking? Oh, look at the move. LucifroN is going to buy a lot of time by doing this. I say that. Okay, let's be real. He's only going to buy a lot of time if his opponent doesn't realize he can chop trees and walk around. We've seen some players forget that's a thing, and other players remember instantly. But this is at least somewhat efficient in that he's only got to cover 2 passes to do this. And he wants to try and gamble that his opponent won't cut around, mainly because he wants that little bit of extra time to move out for at least the central relic. Because remember, Reignitz Cathedral, the critical detail is going to take 3 max. So that's your threshold. Any other relics is just a small bonus in comparison to the 300 gold per minute you get per relic in the tech-free landmark for HRE. Good timing on moving out the prelate as well. Barely any inefficiency in this, so Archon Chapel going to be achieved. You kind of expect to be behind a Chinese opponent just because they build up landmarks quicker. But now you're a more efficient economy. You already were, really. If you look at the income per minute right now, you can see the numbers, right? LucifroN's already ahead in gold. His food is going to boost up with the continued fleet as he has a second dock and can sustain that. And his wood will surpass that of his opponents considering he has a prelate out here with a bunch of villages. And more importantly, he can have a new wood line, right? And that's why he's moving 2 different wood lines. Basically, a prelate can handle up to 10 villages. That's the maximum you can buff. You don't want to go past that number. He does need his scout, though. Where is LucifroN's scout? Oh, I think he lost it. Yeah, it got sniped. Wait, no, it's in the base. There we go. That's why. It's actually stuck in the base. It is sniped now, though. Horseman runs him down. Gets valuable info, though, that his opponent is going into the Horseman. So now he should be able to kind of pivot to defend against that if need be. And the scout has given up. By the way, the reason that you go after the prelate with the scout is because if you go after any villagers, the prelate is just going to heal them. You have to get rid of the prelates. And if you injure one heavily enough and force your opponent to bring across another prelate to heal that one, that's wasted inefficiencies for 2 prelates, right? Because you might, well, usually, well, 1, possibly 2. Depends if you want to meet in the middle, right? But one of your prelates is not going to be optimizing your eco lines, basically. And speaking of optimizing, look what we talked about, right? Food, gold, all of it there. Courtesy of having this second dock drop compared to still the 1. So Kelazhur, 13 boats here. Meanwhile, only 11 for LucifroN. But Lucy's pretty efficient here, right? He's got multiple deep waters being utilized at this point. Whereas when you look at it right now, Kelazhur, he's draining by the closest one first, and it means that he's going to have further drop-off points to return the goodies. 2 horsemen, 2 scouts. Going to take them a while to get through there. And that is enough time to prep a racks. And if you get some early spearmen out, keep in mind that you can actually stab through the palisade onto these horses. And you already see the scout moving out to try and deal with the villager. LucifroN, I think you're okay to sacrifice one of your villagers here to keep this wall up long enough to get 2 or 3 spears out. That's his goal here. You can already see it queued up too. So yeah. Even another villager as well. Yeah, I think he's backing off now. This should buy some time. I don't know if it's going to be enough to reach the threshold of 3 spears. Because remember, not only do you have to produce them, they have to get across to this location as well. But LucifroN, he needs to buy time. He's already teching up. Kelazhur is being surpassed. Kelazhur is trying to keep up. You see he's going back for the Song Dynasty and has the secondary TC. So trying to scale himself. But remember, the thing about HRE is on an equal footing in terms of like eco count. They're already ahead, right? Because the villages are 40% more effective. And then on top of that, the Reignitz Cathedral is going to, in effect, be saving you something like 20 villages, right? If you keep in mind that 200 gold is achievable for 5 villages, right? You can see how quickly you are saving quite the big bang of buck, right? Because remember, 900 gold per minute when filled up with all of those relics. And new wall's going down, so nice move there. LucifroN has bought enough time. He surrenders over a gold deposit he doesn't really care about, and now these spearmen should be able to stop Kelazhur from pushing through the wall. And here you go. This is what we're talking about. You just stab through. It means that you can't see through these walls, really. And now with the gate going down, you'll be chased away. Meanwhile, Prelate picking up one of the relics already, and the scout can't stop you either. The TC's there to protect. And this is now a problem for Kelazhur. Kelazhur is at least keeping the pressure on, allowing himself to scale, but he needs to actually put pressure on to these relic locations, which he now only has access to one of, right? Because the one up here is behind a wall, the one in the center is behind these walls, and then, of course, there's another one over on the side. And he's already spotted his opponent has grabbed one of these. And you see LucifroN moving for the risky one in the center to begin with, before his opponent can actually amass forces and harass him. And Zhugnu is going to be the answer for Kelazhur. This deals with the Spearman, but keep in mind that LucifroN's up at Castle. So he can just build into Man-at-Arms. Man-at-Arms that will trade well up against the Horsemen that suck in melee. And Zhugnu, this is taking too long to get through the Spearman. This is not fast by any means. So he loses additional units than what he should have. He still is only coming out with Zhugnu, right? He needs to keep pushing out Horsemen, and you don't feel good about it in the situation. But you need a unit to burn through these palisades. And instead, he chooses to send the villagers forward. So 6 villagers up here to burn through the wall. Is it going to be quick enough, though? The stables are being dropped. The barracks is as well. The upgrades are getting in place. Remember, you have to go up to normie Man-at-Arms because you start off with the early Man-at-Arms. It's kind of one of those weird things. I think a lot of people think that having Vanguard Man-at-Arms and early Man-at-Arms is an advantage. I refute that. I honestly don't think it's often a buff. It's actually a negative, right? Because you have to go back to those upgrades, and that wastes production rates. And look at this play right now. Kelazhur, this seems very smart, folks. But keep in mind that critical detail that you can just chop trees down and go around it. Also, the other critical detail here, your opponent already collected the relic. He doesn't care. The good news right now is you might snipe out another, but no, you're walling it. Kelazhur, I don't think he scouted this. This is a mistake. So his opponent already snatched the central relic, and basically LucifroN's doing an inefficient play because he never checked on the right side. He's heading over here to grab the furthest away relic now. And that does mean that he's at risk, but the way that this has been played by Kelazhur, he's walled himself in. And he's dropping a marketplace. Okay. Interesting play. I guess he just needed to trade some resources. I don't expect to see any exploits out of pro players. But it's a very weird place to drop a marketplace. And now just stripping away the vision. And getting the towers down. Okay, this is cool. We've been seeing this aggressive tower walling a lot out of Delhi at the moment, right? Courtesy of Compound the Defender. But China are just as effective, right? Because of their quicker build rates. And LucifroN, he doesn't care. Look what he's doing. He's teching up. His opponent has pinned him in. He's like, ah ha ha, I have you now. No, you don't. Thanks. You've insulated me. You're not coming in. Which means that we're just going to keep partying until, you know, it's time to go to bed. But guaranteed that by the time we go into bed, you're going to be 6 feet under. And that's why Kelazhur needs to get in. He needs to do it soon. He's trying to utilize the walls for the Zhugnu as well. Remember, they get that bonus range putting up to 6.5 tiles. The problem is that your opponent has a Mangonel. He can easily build into a Bombard now that he's reached Impage, and then you're in trouble. Remember, you're going to be outscaled now. So although you've had these 2 TCs rolling out the villages with the Song Dynasty, you're up at 86 eco. The problem is the effective eco, right? With the extra 40%, you have to add that to LucifroN's number of units, right? So if on average he has about 50 buffed up units working, that means that with that 40% increase, he's closer to like the 70 mark, right? Which means the difference is only 10, 15, and then that difference is made up by the Regnitz Cathedral's relics. So they're actually neck and neck in terms of economical value. And if we look at the income per minute, you can kind of see that, right? Kelazhur is doubling up LucifroN there, but look at the wood difference. LucifroN is vastly ahead and ahead of him on the gold. And now, with the Palace of Swabia, the other difference to keep in mind is HRE players boom at this stage in the game. They reach Imperial Age around pre-13 minutes, and then they start to just flood out these villages, courtesy of building them 75% faster and at 25% the cost. And now Keep Drop. Bombard's being built, though. He needs 2 or 3 of these to snipe out the Keeps quickly. You're going to sacrifice some military infrastructure here, but you should be fine for the moment with the TCs to protect you. So remember, it's only Zhugnu and Horsemen. Kelazhur hasn't really backed this up of anything, and this is what has me worried right now. He needed a Ford military district. Instead, look, he's saving for the tech up. He wants to go Imperial Age, and this might cost him the game. Mangonel shot, Horsemen chasing in, but they can never reach. And the Bombards, it won't take long to break out now. I think he needed it all in on this. He actually needed to get more units down, infrastructure here to support it, basically, right? Like racks, archery ranges, whatever. Instead, he's trying to get a few springers out to deal with the Bombards, and in the meantime, saving up. He's hoarding for that Impage. And it is hurting him. And you can see it now as he tries to replace units, right? Tries to bring out new units. He's slowing himself down. He almost has the gold surplus, but he's behind on the food. And every minute that you're like this, every minute you're not pressuring heavily and getting rid of more military buildings, is another minute that LucifroN's clawing this back. Now Bombard's being sniped out. He's focused on the towers. He's finally switching over, but he's going to lose one of them. Doesn't even get the shot out. And now in range of the tower, needs to be a little bit careful. But the Knight Army's building. And you have no solution, right? You went Zhuge Nu. You suck against armored units. And that is basically the bread and butter of HRE. It's man-at-arms and it's Knights. Now trying to rebuild the defenses from on top of the walls. One of the advantages you have here, right, is even if your opponent went to Mangonel or went into Archers himself, remember that units on top of the wall take reduced damage. So you're not able to burst through them quickly, right? You're only doing a third of the damage you should be. But now racing through the towers so quickly, quicker than they can be rebuilt. An army that's being amassed here is not good enough. Because the Bombard, if it snipes through this gate, they're going to flood through onto your economy. It won't take long. Oh yeah, deletes the market. Need to make room for a keep. And how's it looking back in base? Well, he's amassing the stables right now. But he's just horsemen still. This is not good enough. You need spears. You genuinely need spears against this. Spears and Mangonels would actually win this game for Kelazhur. But he just doesn't have the forward line to pressure like this. And now he's reacting with the Nesta Bees. But the Nesta Bees, I mean, they're going to flood through in a sec. And this is going to be too late. Walls are down. Spear was revealed. Straight in on top of them. Nesta Bees, one is not going to be good enough here. And it's rolling straight into their face. Kelazhur completes the keep, but has nothing to protect it anymore. His army's going to be wiped, and this game is looking all but over. And with a push in, the Bombard sniping onto the keep next. You're going to lose all your four defenses. The walls that are trying to be placed are going to be too late as well. You can see them move forward. LucifroN understands that he has this game on the edge of a win. And he's not going to waste any time. Kelazhur, what's the pivot? What's the reaction? What's the play? I don't see it. It feels like he's just stopped producing right now. He has surplus. He still hasn't teched up. This greed, this reluctance to double down on Castle Age or choose to go to Imperial Age. He wanted to have his cake and eat it, and as a result, he's dying of that diabetes. And while he tries to get fat, LucifroN already is there. He's so chubby, he's rolled up into a ball, and he's rolling downhill towards your base right now. And it will not take him long to reach it. Walls to delay once more, but some of the Knights already breached through. They're going to run rampant across your economy lines. Snipes out the siege weapons as they move in as well. Nesta Bees, damage is negligible one-on-one. With the Bombards here, I'm surprised he hasn't called it. He's got one last Ura, but this Ura looks like an at best, right? I'd give this a 1 out of 10 on the Uras. It's not a full Divide on a charge forward. It's more like Ura. Because all he's got is Horsemen and Nesta Bees. And the Knights will outmobilize you. The Bombards will out-siege your repairs. And once that happens, you're in deep doo-doo. You can already see more Bombards moving up now. And what's the play? Just dropping a marketplace right now. No transition. There's no room for it. That's the more important detail, right? Even if he wanted to go for racks, he needed to do it at the forward base. That's one of the limiting factors of Black Forest, and this hurt him bad. And I think once the gate's breached, this is kind of over, right? There's just too many Knights here. Nesta Bees try to get in range, but look how pathetic the damage is. What a way for LucifroN to play this, though. I love the way he eco-boomed up. I love the way he utilized walls to slow down his opponent. And I like the attempt by Kelazhur, but he hesitated. He did not double down on the aggressive walling, and that leads to a loss. 2-1 overall in favor of LucifroN. What a way to win it.